Han Wu walked off the transport ship and onto the metal floor of Kepler Station. His boots made small clicking sounds as he moved. The gravity felt different here. Lighter. Each step made him feel like he might float away if he moved too fast. He had to be careful not to bounce when he walked. The hallway was full of other new students. But Han Wu was the only human. Everyone else looked very different from him. Some had 4 arms. Some had skin that looked like crystals. Others floated in special suits filled with gas. They all stared at him as he walked by. A tall alien with blue skin and 4 arms came up to him. "You must be the human," it said. Its voice sounded like it was talking through water. "I am Kralthex. We will share a room." Han Wu nodded. "Nice to meet you. I am Han Wu." Kralthex looked him up and down. Han Wu could tell the alien was not impressed. "You look very small," Kralthex said. "And soft. Are all humans like this?" "I suppose so," Han Wu replied. He did not want to argue on his first day. They walked together toward the dormitory area. Other students moved out of their way. Han Wu noticed they were all looking at him with curious eyes. Some whispered to each other as he passed. "The Galactic Naval Academy has never had a human student before," Kralthex explained as they walked. "Most species think humans are too weak for military training. No armor. No extra arms. No special powers. Just pink skin and soft bodies." Han Wu said nothing. He had heard this before during his application process. The review board had asked him many questions about human abilities. They seemed surprised that Earth had even applied to send a student. Their room was small but clean. 2 beds, 2 desks, and a large window that looked out into space. Kralthex claimed the bed near the window. Han Wu took the other one and began unpacking his few belongings. "Tomorrow we start flight training," Kralthex said. "The gravity in the training pods is set to Academy standard, 1.2 times normal. Most species find it comfortable. But humans?" He made a sound that might have been laughter. "We will see how long you last." The next morning, Han Wu joined the other new students in a large classroom. The instructor was a Vex, one of the crystal-skinned aliens. Her name was Instructor Velnoth. Her body looked like it was made of clear blue glass, but Han Wu could see light moving inside her like electricity. "Welcome to the Galactic Naval Academy," she said. Her voice was sharp and clear like breaking glass. "You are here because your species believes you can become elite pilots. Most of you are wrong." She looked directly at Han Wu when she said this. Several students turned to stare at him. "Space combat requires strength, speed, and endurance," Velnoth continued. "The Academy gravity is set to 1.2 standard. This simulates the conditions you will face on most military vessels. Some of you may find this challenging." Again her eyes found Han Wu in the crowd. The first flight simulation was scheduled for that afternoon. Han Wu followed the other students to a room full of training pods. Each pod was a small spacecraft simulator with all the controls of a real fighter ship. As Han Wu climbed into his pod, he felt the gravity change. It became stronger, pulling him down into his seat. But something felt wrong. This was not stronger than Earth gravity. It was weaker. Much weaker. On Earth, Han Wu had trained in gravity that was much heavier than this. He had learned to fly aircraft, run obstacle courses, and fight in conditions that would crush most of these aliens. But he kept this information to himself. The simulation began. Han Wu found himself flying a virtual spacecraft through an asteroid field. The increased gravity was supposed to make his movements slow and difficult. Instead, he felt faster and more responsive than he had ever felt before. His ship moved through the asteroids like a dancer. Every turn was smooth. Every shot hit its target. When the simulation ended, his score was higher than any other new student. Instructor Velnoth looked at the results with surprise. "Interesting," she said. "The human performed better than expected." Kralthex seemed confused. "But humans are supposed to be weak," he said to his friends. "How did he do so well?" Over the next few days, Han Wu continued to surprise everyone. He completed every training exercise without complaint. He never asked for breaks or easier conditions. When other students struggled with the Academy gravity, Han Wu seemed to get stronger. The alien students began to whisper about him more. Some thought he was hiding his true abilities. Others believed humans were not as weak as everyone thought. But most still saw him as a curiosity, something strange and unusual that did not belong at their elite academy. Han Wu trained quietly and worked hard. He studied the other species and learned their strengths and weaknesses. The Zenthri were strong but slow. The Vex were smart but fragile. The Nephilim could fly naturally but needed their suits to survive in normal atmosphere. But none of them knew the truth about humans. None of them knew that Earth's gravity was much stronger than Academy standard. None of them realized that Han Wu had been training his entire life in conditions that would hospitalize most of his classmates. And Han Wu saw no reason to tell them. Not yet. As he lay in his bed that night, listening to Kralthek's snore with all four of his lungs, Han Wu smiled. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities to show what humans could really do. But he would let his classmates learn that lesson slowly. 3 weeks had passed since Han Wu arrived at the academy. He had settled into a routine of classes, training, and study time. Every day he performed well in his simulations. Every day his alien classmates seemed more confused by his abilities. Kralthek watched Han Wu complete another perfect flight test. The human ship moved through the training course like it was dancing. No wasted movements. No mistakes. It made Kralthek angry. "This is not right," Kralthek said to his friends after class. "Humans are supposed to be the weak species. But he makes it look easy." His friend Dexmore nodded. Dexmore was also Zenthari with the same blue skin and 4 strong arms. "Maybe he is not trying hard enough. Maybe the training is too easy for him." "That gives me an idea," Kralthek said with a wicked smile. "What if we made his training harder? Much harder?" The 3 Zenthari students met in secret that night. Kralthek had learned how to access the training pod computers during his technical classes. It was not supposed to be used for pranks, but the instructors never said students could not practice their skills. "The gravity in his pod is set to Academy standard," Kralthek explained. 1.2 times normal. What if we changed it to 2.4? Double the gravity? Dexmore laughed. He would be crushed flat. Humans have weak bones and soft muscles. He would have to quit the simulation and call for help. Or better yet, added their third friend Vexenel, he would be too embarrassed to tell anyone. He would just suffer through it and perform terribly. Then everyone would see that humans do not belong here. They all agreed this was a perfect plan. It would be funny to watch the human struggle. And it would prove that humans were not as special as Han Wu had been making them look. The next day was Han Wu's solo flight training. This was when each student practiced alone in their pod for 3 hours. No instructors watching closely. No other students to help if something went wrong. Kralthek waited until Han Wu entered his training pod. Then he quickly accessed the computer system and changed the gravity settings. Instead of 1.2 times normal, the pod would now have 2.4 times normal gravity. Double the standard. "This should be entertaining," Kralthek whispered to his friends. They gathered around the observation window to watch Han Wu fail. Inside his pod, Han Wu felt the gravity change immediately. The force pushing down on him doubled. His arms felt heavier. His head was pressed harder into the headrest of his pilot's seat. Most species would panic at this sudden change. Han Wu smiled. For the first time since arriving at the academy, he felt like he was really training. This gravity was much closer to what he was used to on Earth. Not exactly the same, but much better than the light gravity he had been dealing with. The simulation began. Han Wu was supposed to fly through a series of combat scenarios. Enemy ships would attack him from all directions. He would need quick reflexes and steady hands to survive. With the doubled gravity, his movements were slower but more deliberate. Every action required more strength. But Han Wu had been training in heavy gravity his whole life. His muscles were built for this kind of stress. His virtual spacecraft moved through the battle like a shark through water. Smooth, powerful, and deadly. Enemy ships fired at him, but Han Wu's ship twisted away from their attacks. When he fired back, every shot hit its target perfectly. Outside the pod, Kralthek and his friends watched in growing confusion. They had expected to see Han Wu struggling. They thought he would be sweating and shaking from the increased gravity. Instead, he looked more focused than they had ever seen him. "Why is he not having trouble?" Dexmore asked. "Maybe the gravity change did not work," Vexenel suggested. Kralthek checked the computer. The gravity was definitely set to double normal. "It is working. The gravity in his pod is twice what it should be. He should be barely able to move." But Han Wu moved just fine. In fact, he seemed to be performing better than usual. His reaction times were faster. His aim was more accurate. He completed combat scenarios that most students found difficult even under normal gravity. 3 hours passed. The training session ended. Han Wu climbed out of his pod slowly, wiping sweat from his face. The doubled gravity had made him work harder, but he did not look exhausted. He looked satisfied. Kralthek and his friends tried to act casual as Han Wu walked toward them. "How was your training session?" Kralthek asked, trying to hide his nervousness. Han Wu looked at him thoughtfully. "Actually, it was really good today. The resistance felt much better than usual. More like proper training. The three aliens exchanged confused glances. That is interesting, Kralthek said carefully. Hanwoo nodded. Yeah, I was wondering if you could help me with something. Do you think you could set the gravity even higher tomorrow? Maybe triple the standard? I think that would really help me improve my performance. Dexmore's mandibles clicked in shock. Triple? That would be 3.6 times normal gravity. That could seriously hurt you. I doubt it, Hanwoo said with a casual shrug. I mean, today felt good, but I think I could handle more challenge. Would that be possible? The three Zen3 students stared at him like he had grown extra heads. Triple gravity would crush most species. Even Zen3, who were known for their strength, would struggle under those conditions. We will think about it, Kralthex managed to say. Great, thanks, Hanwoo said. I really appreciate you guys helping me train harder. See you tomorrow. He walked away, leaving three very confused aliens behind him. What just happened? Vexanael asked. I have no idea, Kralthex replied. But I think we made a mistake. Word spread quickly through the academy about the strange human who wanted more gravity. Students whispered about it in the cafeteria. They talked about it during break time. Soon, everyone knew that Hanwoo had asked for triple gravity training. Most students thought it was impossible. Some thought Hanwoo was lying or trying to show off. Others believed he was crazy and would get himself killed. Instructor Velnoth heard the rumors during her morning briefing with other teachers. At first she did not believe them. Humans were known to be one of the weakest species in the galaxy. The idea that one would want more gravity seemed ridiculous. But then she checked the training records. Hanwoo's performance scores had improved dramatically during his last session. The computer showed that gravity in his pod had been set to double normal during that time. Either the human was much stronger than anyone thought or something strange was happening. Velnoth decided to investigate personally. She found Hanwoo in the library after classes. He was studying flight manuals and combat tactics. She sat down across from him at the study table. Cadet Hanwoo, she said. Her crystal voice made other students look up from their books. Yes, instructor, Hanwoo replied politely. I hear you have been requesting changes to your training gravity settings. Hanwoo nodded. Yes, ma'am. The standard setting feels a bit light for proper training. I was hoping to increase the challenge level. Velnoth studied his face carefully. She had been an instructor for 20 years and had learned to read students well. Most young pilots who bragged about wanting harder training were just showing off. They would panic when faced with real difficulty. But Hanwoo seemed completely serious. There was no boasting in his voice. No attempt to impress her. He spoke like someone asking for extra homework to help them learn better. Triple gravity would be 3.6 times Academy standard, she explained. Most species cannot even stand under those conditions, let alone pilot a spacecraft. I understand the risks, Hanwoo said calmly. But I think it would help me improve my skills faster. Velnoth made a decision. If this human wanted to prove how tough he was, she would give him that chance. In front of everyone. Very well, she said. Tomorrow during combat training class, you will demonstrate your abilities under triple gravity. The entire class will observe. Hanwoo smiled. Thank you, instructor. I appreciate the opportunity. The next day, news of the public demonstration had spread through the entire academy. Students from other classes came to watch. Even some senior instructors arrived to see what would happen. The main training room was packed with observers. In the center sat one training pod, modified for extreme gravity settings. Warning signs were posted all around it. Instructor Velnoth addressed the crowd. Today we will test the limits of human endurance. Cadet Hanwoo has requested training under triple gravity conditions. Most species would be seriously injured at this level. She turned to Hanwoo. This is your last chance to change your mind. Once the simulation begins, you will experience 3.6 times normal gravity for 4 hours. Medical teams are standing by. Hanwoo nodded calmly. I understand, instructor. I am ready to proceed. The crowd watched silently as Hanwoo climbed into the training pod. The heavy door sealed shut behind him. On the observation screens, everyone could see him settling into the pilot seat. Velnoth activated the gravity controls. Beginning triple gravity simulation, now. Inside the pod, Hanwoo felt the familiar sensation of increased weight. This was much closer to Earth's natural gravity. Still not exactly the same, but close enough to feel like home. His body settled into the heavier environment like putting on comfortable clothes. The combat simulation began. Virtual enemy ships appeared on his screens from all directions. Under normal gravity, this would be a challenging but manageable fight. Under triple gravity, most pilots would be unable to move their arms quickly enough to operate the controls. Han Wu's hands moved across the control panel with steady precision. His ship rolled left to avoid incoming fire, then accelerated forward to attack. Every movement was deliberate and controlled. The observers watched in amazement as his ship danced through the battle. He was not moving as fast as he would under normal gravity, but his movements were perfectly timed. No energy was wasted. Every action had a purpose. 1 hour passed. Then 2. Han Wu showed no signs of slowing down. His combat scores were higher than most students achieved under normal conditions. He destroyed wave after wave of enemy ships with calm efficiency. Kralthex watched with growing disbelief. This should not be possible, he whispered to his friends. He should be crushed by now. 3 hours into the simulation, Han Wu was still performing flawlessly. His breathing was heavier, visible on the medical monitors, but his heart rate remained steady. His hands never shook on the controls. During the 4th hour, he faced the simulation's final challenge, a massive enemy battleship with multiple weapon systems. Under normal gravity, this fight required perfect timing and quick reflexes. Under triple gravity, it seemed impossible. Han Wu studied the enemy ship's movement patterns. He waited for the right moment, then struck. His ship moved in a complex attack pattern, hitting the battleship's weak points in perfect sequence. The virtual enemy exploded in a shower of light. The simulation ended. The training pod's door opened with a hiss of releasing pressure. Han Wu climbed out slowly. His uniform was soaked with sweat, and his legs shook slightly as he stood. But he was standing. After 4 hours of triple gravity, he was still on his feet. The training room was completely silent. Every alien in the crowd stared at him with expressions of shock and disbelief. Acceptable performance, Han Wu said quietly, catching his breath. He looked at instructor Velnoth. Same time tomorrow? Velnoth's crystal face showed cracks of amazement. In 20 years of teaching, she had never seen anything like this. The crowd began to whisper excitedly. The impossible had just happened before their eyes. That night, instructor Velnoth could not sleep. She kept thinking about what she had seen in the training room. No species should be able to perform like that under triple gravity. It went against everything she knew about biology and physics. She went to her office at 3 in the morning and began searching the Academy's database. She needed to understand what had just happened. There had to be an explanation. The first thing she looked up was human biology. The files were thin. Humans were a new species in galactic society. They had only made contact with other civilizations 5 years ago. Most of what the galaxy knew about them came from their own reports. According to the files, humans came from a planet called Earth. They were carbon-based life forms with internal skeletons and soft skin. No natural armor. No redundant organs. No special abilities. They seemed like one of the weakest species anyone had ever encountered. But something was wrong with these reports. Velnoth had seen Han Wu's strength with her own eyes. She decided to dig deeper. She accessed the Galactic Survey records. When a new species joined Galactic Society, survey teams visited their home planet to gather detailed information. The Earth survey should have complete data about human living conditions. It took her an hour to find the right files. When she opened them, she saw something that made her crystal body flash with shock. Earth's gravity was listed as 1.5 times galactic standard. Velnoth read the number 3 times to make sure she was seeing correctly. Earth's gravity was 1.5 standard. The Academy's challenging gravity of 1.2 standard was actually lighter than what humans lived with every day. She quickly did the math in her head. If Earth was 1.5 standard, then Han Wu had been training under reduced gravity since he arrived. The Academy's gravity was 20% lighter than his home planet. When Kralthex doubled the gravity to 2.4 standard, it was still only 60% heavier than Han Wu's natural environment. No wonder he had performed better. The difficult conditions were actually closer to what felt normal for him. And when she had set the training pod to triple gravity 3.6 standard, it was only slightly more than twice Earth's natural gravity. Challenging for a human but not impossible. Velnoth realized she had been thinking about this completely wrong. Han Wu was not incredibly strong for a human. He was probably average. Which meant every human was much stronger than the galaxy believed. She spent the rest of the night reading everything she could find about Earth and human biology. The more she learned, the more amazed she became. Humans had evolved on a high-gravity world with dangerous predators and harsh weather. Their bones were incredibly dense compared to most species. Their muscles were designed for constant work against heavy gravity. Their hearts and lungs were built to pump blood and oxygen through bodies under intense pressure. What the galaxy had seen as weakness was actually the result of evolution under extreme conditions. Humans looked soft because they did not need external armor. Their planet had made their entire bodies into armor. By morning, Velnoth had compiled a complete report. She took it directly to Commander Zextor, the Academy's highest-ranking officer. Commander Zextor was a Vex like Velnoth but much older. His crystal body was darker blue, almost purple, showing his many years of experience. He read Velnoth's report carefully, his internal light flickering as he processed the information. "This is significant," he said finally. "You are telling me that we have been training the human under conditions easier than his home environment?" "Yes, sir," Velnoth replied. "And if one human can perform like this, it means their entire species has capabilities we never imagined." Commander Zextor stood up and walked to his office window. Outside he could see students moving between classes. Among them he spotted Han Wu walking with some alien classmates. The human looked completely normal, just another student going about his day. "Have you told anyone else about this?" the commander asked. "No, sir. I came to you first." "Good. We need to think carefully about how to handle this information." Commander Zextor turned back to face her. "If the galaxy learns that humans are this strong, it could change everything. Political alliances, military strategies, trade agreements." Velnoth had been thinking the same thing. Humans had presented themselves as a peaceful, weak species looking for friendship among the stars. But if they were actually one of the strongest species anyone had encountered, other civilizations might see them as a threat. "What should we do about Cadet Han Wu?" she asked. Commander Zextor considered this carefully. "For now we continue his training as normal. But we watch him closely. We need to understand the full extent of human capabilities." He paused and looked out the window again. "And we need to decide whether to tell him that we know the truth about his species." Later that day, Velnoth found herself watching Han Wu during regular classes. He participated in discussions about flight tactics and combat theory. He helped other students with their homework. He seemed friendly and eager to learn. But now she saw him differently. When he casually picked up a heavy equipment case that required 2 Zenthari to lift, she noticed. When he jogged up 3 flights of stairs without getting tired, she paid attention. When he ate twice as much food as other students, she understood why. Han Wu was not trying to hide his strength. He was just being himself. But being himself meant being stronger than almost everyone around him without even trying. The question now was, did Han Wu know how unusual he was? Did he realize that his normal abilities were extraordinary by galactic standards? And more importantly, how many more humans were out there quietly being stronger than anyone expected? Velnoth had a feeling that the galaxy was about to discover some very surprising truths about humanity. 6 months later, Han Wu stood at the front of the Academy's graduation ceremony. His name was called as the top student of his class. As he walked across the stage to receive his medal, the entire audience of alien students and instructors stood up and clapped. It was the first time in Academy history that a human had graduated first in their class. It was also the first time anyone had requested their training be made harder instead of easier. Commander Zextor handed Han Wu his graduation medal. "Congratulations, Lieutenant Han Wu. You have earned this honor." "Thank you, sir," Han Wu replied. "The Academy taught me a lot." What Han Wu did not know was how much he had taught the Academy. After Velnoth's discovery about Earth's gravity, the Academy had quietly begun studying human capabilities. They tested Han Wu's strength, endurance and reflexes without telling him why. They measured his bone density and muscle mass. They analyzed his blood and studied his heart rate during exercise. Every test confirmed what Velnoth had suspected. Humans were much stronger than anyone had realized. Han Wu was not special for a human. He was average. Which meant every human had abilities that most aliens would consider superhuman. The Academy began developing new training programs based on Han Wu's methods. They called it the Han Protocol, advanced training using higher gravity and more challenging conditions. At first, only the strongest alien species could attempt the Han Protocol. Zenthari warriors could handle some of it for short periods. A few Vex soldiers managed brief sessions. But none of them could sustain it the way Han Wu did naturally. The training became famous throughout the Galactic Defense Corps. Elite pilots from across the galaxy came to the Academy to try the Han Protocol. Most failed. But those who succeeded became some of the best fighters in the fleet. Han Wu received his first assignment 3 days after graduation. He was posted to the Deep Space Reconnaissance ship Rising Dawn as a junior lieutenant. The ship's mission was to explore unknown regions of space and search for new planets. When Han Wu arrived at the spaceport, he met his new commanding officer. Captain Lex Val was a veteran Vex with many years of experience. She looked at Han Wu's file with interest. "So you are the famous human from the academy," she said. "I have heard stories about your training methods." "I just did what felt natural, Captain," Han Wu replied. Captain Lex Val smiled. "Natural for a human, perhaps. But extraordinary for everyone else." The Rising Dawn was a mid-sized exploration vessel with a crew of 40 aliens from 12 different species. Han Wu was the only human aboard. When he reported for duty, the other crew members stared at him with curiosity and respect. His direct supervisor was Lieutenant Commander Thexcor, a Zenthari officer who had heard about the Han protocol. "I tried your training method once," Thexcor told him. "I lasted 20 minutes before I had to quit." "It gets easier with practice," Han Wu said helpfully. "For humans maybe," Thexcor replied with a laugh. The ship's first mission took them to a system with 3 unexplored planets. One of the planets had gravity that measured 2.8 times galactic standard. Most of the crew would need special equipment to even walk on its surface. Captain Lex Val called a meeting to discuss the mission. "Planet designation XK-471 has extreme gravity conditions," she explained. "We will need to use remote drones for most of our survey work." Han Wu raised his hand. "Captain, I could handle a surface mission if needed. That gravity level is manageable for humans." The bridge crew turned to stare at him. 2.8 standard gravity would crush most species. "Are you certain?" Captain Lex Val asked. "Yes, ma'am. It would be uncomfortable but not dangerous for me." And so Han Wu became the first crew member to set foot on XK-471. He spent 6 hours on the planet's surface, collecting samples and taking measurements while the rest of the crew watched from orbit. To him it felt like a challenging workout. To his alien crewmates, it looked impossible. Over the following months, Han Wu's reputation spread throughout the Defense Corps. Stories were told about the human who trained in triple gravity. Other ships requested him for difficult missions. His methods were studied and copied by military trainers across the galaxy. But Han Wu remained humble about his abilities. When reporters asked him for interviews, he always said the same thing: "I am just doing my job the way humans do it." What he did not say was that he had figured out the truth months ago. He had realized that Earth's gravity was heavier than galactic standard. He knew his natural strength surprised his alien friends. But he saw no reason to make a big deal about it. One day, a young Zenthari cadet visited the Rising Dawn during a training exercise. The cadet was struggling with advanced piloting techniques and asked Han Wu for advice. "How do you make it look so easy?" the cadet asked. Han Wu thought for a moment. "Never let people make assumptions about what you can do," he said. "Work hard, stay humble, and let your results speak for themselves." The cadet nodded thoughtfully. "Is that a human saying?" "No," Han Wu smiled. "That is just good advice." Years later, when humans began joining the galactic community in larger numbers, everyone was prepared for their strength and endurance. The Han protocol had become standard advanced training. Elite units used human-designed exercises. Military academies studied human methods. But Han Wu always remembered his early days at the academy, when his classmates thought he was weak. He remembered Kralthex's surprise when the gravity prank backfired. He remembered asking for triple gravity and seeing the shock on everyone's faces. Sometimes the best way to show your strength is to let others discover it for themselves. And sometimes, all it takes is someone who thinks they are playing a joke on you.